North Korea is once again playing games. Are you surprised the White House was caught off guard by the North pulling out of the summit with South Korea?
I don't think they were caught by surprise. I think this is a tactic of North Korea. Over the last three presidencies, North Korea has always tried to test us. They try to bring us into negotiations and make us have concessions before we meet at the table. And I think John Bolton and Pompeo and the president are standing firm that we're not going to make concessions just to get to the negotiating table. And I think that's been the fatal flaw that's happened over the last previous three administrations, where the North Koreans have played us and continued their nuclear weapons program.
You know, by threatening to cancel the summit with President Trump, Pyongyang is obviously sending a clear message. He thinks he holds the cards. And once he eventually has final word, the president of this United States is going to follow suit. That's not how this is going to work. Kim Jong-un does not hold the cards. He needs to understand that. If he keeps down this road, what does the president need to do to show him who's steering the ship?
I really think this campaign of maximum pressure, as opposed to what President Obama did with Iran to appease Iran to get to the negotiation table, I think the administration is playing this out perfectly by putting maximum pressure through sanctions. And particularly, as you mentioned, China. China has been very helpful in this respect. And as you mentioned earlier, China does not want North Korea to pull out of these negotiations and these talks. So I think leveraging China, sanctions, not giving in to this. I think, you know, Kim Jong-un is just testing President Moon in South Korea to see if he'll concede on these routine military exercises. I would advise and caution not to give in to their concessions before you can get to the negotiating table. You want to negotiate out of strength, not out of weakness.
North Korea's vice foreign minister accuses the U.S. of making reckless statements and of harboring sinister intentions. They are directly pointing the finger to John Bolton, who said recently that North Korea could follow a Libya model of verifiable denuclearization. Pyongyang obviously knows what happened when Libya's Colonel Gaddafi gave up his nuclear program. He was killed by the Western-backed rebels a few years later. Who does the cleanup now? Does Mike Pompeo step in and try to convince Kim Jong-un that he will not suffer the same fate? Because that is now the concern. And Mike Pompeo has worked so hard to bring talks to the table, and that could potentially be all washed away.
Well, you know, Mike Pompeo is a former colleague of mine. I have tremendous respect. I've traveled abroad with him. I think as Secretary of State, he is the chief diplomat here. And you know, the military works to get the diplomats to the table working together. And so I have every faith and confidence that Mike is going to be able to pull this off. There will be a June 12th summit. And, you know, again, like President Kennedy said, let us not fear to negotiate, but let us not negotiate out of fear. And let's not let Kim Jong-un bully the United States around. We need to let them know that we are a superpower, that we are not going to stand for a nuclear North Korea. Right. And to the credit of the Maximum campaign, we have seen signs of the missiles not being fired and by satellite imagery, actually dismantling some of these nuclear facilities. That is a big step forward.
Right. All right. I want to switch gears now because the Senate Judiciary has just released transcripts. John Roberts was just mentioning it's over 2,000 pages. So we're getting through them. I've read some of them, certainly not 2,000 of them. But it is regarding the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. From Donald Trump Jr.'s testimony to the committee back in September of 2017, Trump Jr. said that he went into the meeting with, quote, skepticism, and that he said he never told his father about that meeting. That is one of those issues that John Mueller has been wanting to certainly harp on. What did you make of that testimony?
Well, I don't want to comment too much. I know Mueller has his investigation, but certainly with that kind of testimony, it's very difficult. I was a federal prosecutor, very hard to prove collusion on the part of the father when the father had no knowledge, and that being the president.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for talking to us. We appreciate it. Always great to have you on.